Hacksaw, the best tool for dismembering a body. Can you be charged with murder without a body? Google search. Disposing of a body in the trash. Google search.
We did find a couple bottles of hydrogen peroxide as well as a knife in a kitchen cabinet. The screening test for blood was positive on this blade.
Doctor, is this the photographing of the piece of metal that you spoke of? Doctor, did you recognize any writing on Exhibit 188?
Yes, there was an engraving of Gucci on one side.
I don't want to hide anything from you because if it's that could lead to finding my wife sooner, that's the most important thing. I'm going to hurt my wife. I love my wife.
All eyes are on Dedham, Massachusetts, as closing arguments are set to begin in Brian Walsh's murder trial. We're counting down to the big day. And we're taking a closer look at Walsh's body language, looking at him in surveillance videos versus him in the courtroom. We've got an expert on the show to weigh in. Plus, the downfall of a college football coaching star. Michigan head coach Sherrone Moore fired and arrested just hours apart. The chilling new details of the alleged assault involving a knife. And the shocking tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School 13 years later. This morning, we're remembering the 26 lives lost and speaking one-on-one with Connecticut's former governor about that heartbreaking day. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court to end your work week? We got a great show planned. Let's get it started as we always do. I'm gonna have you grab that cup of coffee or tea or whatever you're having this morning. It's time for my opening statement. It was a well-tried case. The murder trial of Brian Walsh has been well tried by all of the lawyers involved. So no matter what the verdict is, this was a fair and this was a decent fight. And the verdict won't change the fact that those three beautiful little boys are already forced to grow up without their mom. They were ages 2, 4, and 6 when their mom was taken away from them, either by natural causes or by their dad. Either way, Anna Walsh is gone forever. And because their dad decided to dismember Anna's body and discard her remains in dumpsters, those children have also been robbed of at least having a gravesite where they can go visit their mom when they feel lonely. When they're old enough, they're gonna find out how their dad treated their mom after her death. The pain of knowing how he abused her corpse will likely be life-altering for them. Think about that. I hope and I pray that these boys will be raised by a loving home, by parents who are going to guide them through professional counseling and support their ongoing grieving process. Yes, Anna Walsh is the victim listed on the indictment, but those boys are victims every bit as much, just in a different way. So let's be mindful of them. Let's send them our love as we get ready for the jury's decision. And let's hope that justice is served for those boys and for their mom. That's my opening statement this Friday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
But I don't give a f. I'm ready to die. You could kill me. And he began to run towards the house.
And what did you do when you see him running towards the house to lock you out?
I took the shot.
After you shot him, you actually mocked him and said, "It's not like I hit a major artery. You'll be fine," right?
It's not quoted right.
In Florida, we got convicted killer Daisy Link. Remember her back in court today. She wants a new trial. This woman was found guilty of shooting and killing her boyfriend, Pedro. Court's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern time. In New York, we've got the days-long suppression hearing for defendant Luigi Mangione. That's still going on. It's going to resume this morning. Court starts up at 9:30. And big day in Dedham, Massachusetts. The closing arguments in the Brian Walsh murder trial start up at 9 a.m. Eastern. We are counting down for you. And that's, of course, where we begin this hour. So what do the prosecution and the defense need to do in their closing arguments? Anna Walsh was last seen on January 1st of 2023 after she celebrated the New Year's Eve with her husband and a friend who we heard from during the trial. But prosecutors say, that Brian Walsh murdered Anna Walsh after that New Year's Eve dinner. And we know he's admitted to the disposal of her remains and lying to police about it, but he denies that he murdered her. The defense said in opening statements that she died naturally, suddenly, unexplainably. The Commonwealth has the burden here. They called nearly 50 witnesses. Let's look back at some of the key testimony so far.
Anna felt it was really important that when Brian was to find out about the relationship, that she would hear it from her. She had expressed great concern, and I think she felt it would be a strike against her integrity if he found out a different way.
On New Year's Eve, did you have any conversations with Anna about marital problems?
No.
Did you have any conversations with Brian about marital problems?
No. At some point, while Anna was working for you, she confessed that she had a crush on you.
She said that, yeah, maybe.
Miss Kirby, can you tell me what she was upset about?
She was primarily upset about her and Brian's relationship, about being so far away from the kids.
On the show this morning, two former prosecutors who are now in the private sector doing criminal defense work. Let's bring in Noah Pines, who's in the studio with me, and David Bruno, who's joining us remotely. Good morning to you both. Great to have you here on such a big day. So let's start with what each side needs to do. Noah, would you start us off? What do you think are the main things each side needs to hammer home this morning?
Well, I think the prosecution has done a great job of painting a picture and really presenting this case to the jury. I think it's always important for prosecutors to talk about there's a reasonable doubt standard, which kind of is always the big hurdle for jurors, and what it means, that it's not beyond all doubt, it's just a reasonable doubt. In this case, there are not lots of doubts at all, Julie. You know, the defense has a much harder hill to climb, and they just want to poke a hole here maybe and a hole there and hope that, I think that they hope that they have one juror who just maybe doesn't trust the government or wants more, but it's not going to be easy for them.
No. David, what do you think? What does each side need to do this morning?
Prosecutors, they have their case in, and it is persuasive as ever. I think it may be a record conviction, honestly, if you ask me, but you know, there's one thing that the prosecutor can do. I mean, the one thing the defense could do, they can go after cause of death, because they don't have a body, right? But all the actions of the defendant, the Google searches, the hacksaw searches, all of the context and the timing of the Google searches shortly after that New Year's Eve party really go right to the heart of his culpability. And the defendant is going to get up and say, well, they don't have a cause. But guess why they don't have a cause? They don't have a cause because of the actions of the defendant. And the prosecutor really just has to zoom in on that. She was healthy. She didn't have any medical issues. There's really no evidence of any sudden death that the defense opened up to. They didn't present any medical evidence on this point. They didn't present any experts on this point. They opened to it. They did not bring it home. And they're really left with nothing on this closing to argue.
Right. You know, that was a stunner for many of us yesterday when he decided not to testify. Let's go back to that moment now.
As an initial matter, does the defense still intend to call Mr. Walsh today?
We do not.
You do not? All right. Does that moot every issue that I researched last night?
I apologize, Judge.
No, I just want to make sure that the 5 issues that you raised and the issue with regard to the plea are no longer on the table. All right. I will conduct a colloquy with the defendant then now, and my intention is the defense intend to call any other witnesses.
We are not.
Have you made a decision about whether you wish to testify at this trial?
Yes, I have.
And what is your decision?
I will not testify.
She said, does that moot every issue that I researched last night? Sounds like she knew that they had indicated to Her Honor that he would, Noah. I saw your face when she answered. You picked up on that, didn't you?
Well, I was really watching the defense attorney's body language on that one. It was he was saying more with his body than I think he was with his words. To me, it was kind of like, well, yeah, no. You know, I think it was the right decision.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's why I was trying to watch that again and really understand. I mean, clearly there were lots of conversations about that. And I think not testifying is the right decision in this case. I don't think it was. He wasn't going to make his case better.
Yeah.
But sometimes defendants want to address the jury, and you can't stop them from doing that.
Right.
Those are the two decisions clients get to make on their own: plea or trial, testify or not not testify.
Right, Noah. Yeah, you know, it seemed like by all indications that were made to the court, this was supposed to happen. The judge was obviously under that impression, and we know the way counsel framed the open, David, he framed it, you know, with the story about how Brian would find her unresponsive and nudge her, and she would roll off the bed and all of that. And now we know that's not in evidence. So it seems to me that defense counsel may have been thrown through a loop too. What do you think?
Yeah, that's important for our courties to know, is that when you open, you are talking about what the jury is going to expect to hear throughout the trial. And it's not evidence. They're instructed, the opening statements are not evidence. It's just a preview. You really have to present the evidence to rely on later in closings, because when you close, you're closing on the admissible evidence that came through the jury. And none of that came in. That's why I think the judge was so surprised, is that he's got nothing. He's got nothing to argue really, other than just cross-examination, the cause issue. Also, Julie, the fact that there was these other legal issues that if he did testify, then the jury would be hearing about his prior conviction and his other plea. That's what the judge was researching the night before. And I agree about the body language. He apologized. He's like, I'm sorry that you had to research last night. I was scratching my head when I heard it myself, guys.
All right, David. So did the defense do enough? We know they don't have a burden, and so I'm going to be very clear here. They don't have to put on any evidence. However, they raised this interesting theory of sudden death that I think everybody around the world who's watching this case was going, that's where you're going to go. I think most people thought it might be a fight or something that accidentally got, you know, the way it went. Noah, what do you think? Should they have called an expert to talk more about sudden unexplained death?
I mean, for that expert to testify, though, they would have to have some basis. So what would be the basis of their testimony? Just, I mean, you can't just be like, oh, this could happen. I mean, it had to be relevant to the case, and without that other testimony, how is it relevant, right? I think
if you don't have a body, right?
Right, you don't have a body, and you don't have you know, an admissible story of what the defendant said or would have said, which wouldn't be, if the expert can't just say, oh, the defendant told me this, because it would all be self-serving at that point. That part would be hearsay. He'd actually have to testify to it, or there'd have to be some other basis for the expert to give that opinion.
Sure, and I should be clearer with my question. Not meaning an expert to say how definitively she died, because an expert couldn't know that.
Right.
I mean someone, an academic, to come in and say, you know, who's worked in medicine, yes, I've seen these deaths happen. Sometimes they just happen. All I can say is they happen. I don't know that it happened to her, but you know what I'm saying. Should they have done that, David, do you think? Bring somebody in to give some oomph to their theory?
At the very least, they needed something. They needed something. You know, also, if somebody like that finds their spouse, you know, with a medical event, what does everyone expect them to do? Call 911. You call 911, you get her help. You get the paramedics, the EMTs, the police there ASAP to try to revive her. And that's going to be the heart of the prosecutor's case. I mean, you want to talk about cause, how she died? Look at his actions. He did not act as if she had a medical event. He acted as if he killed her. And then you bring in the motive, you bring in the searches, you bring in all the after conduct. I mean, he needed to do more, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know, like I was saying yesterday, you don't need a cover-up if you don't have a crime, right? Great discussion with you both. Noah, you're going to be with us for the show. We thank you for that. David, you're coming back at 9 when we count down to those closing arguments. Friends at home, go get some more coffee. Here's what's next on Opening Statements.
I was initially pretty shocked. And I kind of doubted it at first. I was like, is this really true?
My brother texted me. He was like, OMG, Sherrone Moore got fired, all right? And I was like, what the hell?
Within minutes, like, everyone I knew was talking about it.
The reason why he was fired was what I was pretty surprised by.
A firing and an alleged assault and an arrest. The scandal surrounding the Michigan football head coach trending in true crime. Plus, we're remembering the shocking tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School. I spoke with Connecticut's former governor who recalls delivering the heartbreaking news.
I re-entered the fire department where we had set up everyone, and I had to say some terrible things. But basically, if you had not been reunified with your loved one by now, that's not going to happen.
The disappearance of mother Anna Walsh.
Her husband now charged with her murder.
All eyes on this accused killer.
Mr. Walsh was suspecting his wife of having an affair.
The massive trail of evidence.
This incredible timeline of Google searches.
It shows everything that was in his mind.
He searched how long before a body starts to smell.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Welcome back. Now to a shocking story in Ann Arbor, Michigan that's trending this morning. A historic college football program finds itself at the center of an alleged assault investigation.
Proud of the team. It's a very young team. I continue to say it, and you go back and watch game by game. You saw groups getting better and better and better. And obviously, didn't get the result we wanted in the last game, and that's what we worked towards. But try not to beat yourself up too much about that, because you got to prepare for this next one. So I think we got a really good foundation of where we need to be, but we got a lot to work on.
That was Sherrone Moore Monday addressing the media before a matchup between his 18th-ranked Michigan Wolverines and 13th-ranked Texas later this month. 2 days later, Moore was fired as Michigan's head football coach for what the school is calling an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Then, hours later, the married father of 3 was arrested and taken into police custody. Newly released dispatcher audio details the investigation into the alleged assault involving Moore.
Subject just called the caller, told her there's a male at the location and the house attacking her. The state's been stalking her for months. They call S1's wife in Ann Arbor saying that the subject is suicidal. Roughly quitting his job today.
According to wife and S1's mother, he is at an unknown parking lot somewhere. We're attempting to have wife contact him.
The dispatchers you could hear saying that the subject, Sherrone Moore, was suicidal and that he lost his job today. Authorities say the investigation is ongoing and they haven't released any more details connected to his arrest. So we're wondering, who is he a danger to, if anyone? Let's talk about this. Let's bring in our guest. Still with me in the studio, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Noah Pines, and joining us remotely, sports law attorney and entertainment attorney Dan Lust. Dan also has a podcast, Conduct Detrimental, so definitely check that out too. Dan, I'll begin with you. This is just blowing up, as you know. Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think the first part here is, and some of these interviews kind of mention it, this is a bombshell story. This is a story that is kind of going across college sports into mainstream media. And I think the most important thing, like we can talk about for-cause firing and contracts, and that could be really any type of activity. But when we get to college sports, when you hear that a coach of Sherrone Moore's status was fired after the season for cause, you know it is a gravitas event. And we could look through just the kind of definition for cause in his contract. And while we're kind of speculating on, whether the dispatcher is saying this and what's true versus what's not true on social media, but for a for cause firing for a program like Michigan's, at this point where we're kind of after the coaching carousel has already been done, it has to be a grave event. So we kind of understood it to be a big event. And certainly what's come out now from the dispatcher's office and statement from Michigan, I think that certainly meets that. But yeah, I'm not sure there's a precedent to allegations of this magnitude coming at this time of the season.
Dan, great points. Thank you. Speaking of that comment from the president. So this statement released on the firing of Coach Moore. Statement from the president says, quote, when the findings of a university investigation into Coach Moore's behavior were presented on Wednesday, we immediately terminated his employment. There's absolutely no tolerance for this conduct at the University of Michigan. None. The breach of trust by Coach Moore is painful for many in our community. First and foremost, the individuals directly involved in this situation. Signed Domenico Grasso, the president. Okay. Noah Pines, he's going to court. He picked up this criminal case. And you hear that 911 call. What did you think about that?
Well, my first question is, are all 911 calls like that in Michigan, where they're calling the person S1? I mean, or are they doing something special in this case to hide his voice? I don't know. Yeah. I don't practice there, but I've never, heard that terminology here in Georgia, where it's like S1. So it's a question, because I know sometimes some of these college towns get protected by the police because they don't want this out. We obviously need to hear more of the story, Julie. We don't really have all the facts other than what we've seen on social media, that he was fired, alleged inappropriate conduct, with a female employee, which you can't have. I mean, that's obviously wrong. Is it a bombshell? I mean, does it happen all over? Probably. It's just that he's caught. He's from a big school, and now it's all over social media.
Right, Noah. Dan, what do we know, if anything, about this third party, this mistress, whatever we want to call her?
Yeah, it's I'll echo the comments that were just said. There's a lot of things that we can't separate fact from fiction. Certainly the comments that are pervasive, and we could just say what's being reported, that this was a Michigan in-house staffer, I believe Sherrone Moore's directive executive assistant. There has been some reporting, again, not verified by Michigan, but that this individual's salary had doubled in the last year after being stagnant for the previous two. I will say, in terms of like whether this happens or doesn't happen, or whether what's confirmed or not confirmed, just looking at Michigan's statement, they're very clear in their wording. And I've had a chance to look at Sherrone Moore's contract and the foreclosed elements here. Certainly in a morality clause, you could be fired for a felony, a conviction, right? But there is an element here which I think, at least I'm pointing to, is I think the reason he was fired is just really inappropriate relationships with a staffer that's not being reported. So if you look at Michigan's statement, they're not really saying anything about an arrest, and we're just trying to think of what Sherrone Moore's defense would be to a firing for cause. And again, we haven't said it yet. That's the difference of about $13.5 million for Sherrone Moore that would have been paid out through 2029. So in addition to defending these charges against him, he's going to have essentially a fight for this $13 million. It's going to depend exactly on what school provision he violated. Because right now, he hasn't been convicted of anything. And this is still a case being fought in the court of public opinion. So, yeah, Sherrone Moore has $13.5 million to kind of see this one out. But, yeah, there really isn't much precedent to this, right? Maybe there are relationships with staffers that are reported up the chain. But, this is certainly a bombshell lawsuit in my world.
Yeah, boy, if he hasn't called you yet, he should, Dan Less. You let us know if you get a call and you start representing him. So he's going to be in court today for the criminal case, for this assault case. So it's like he's got separate legal problems going on, as we know. We're still waiting for confirmation on what these charges are. Those details have been kept quiet. This news, we know, it's rocking the campus at the University of Michigan.
You look up to these people a lot, and so, especially as like a big football fan, so it hurt.
There was very little studying being done. It was a big talk, yeah. Everybody knows about it. It's getting spread around.
They did know. They've definitely got to tell everyone, like, hey man, we knew we did something wrong, and we kind of just asked for our forgiveness.
All right, so here's a look at Sherrone Moore's time in Michigan, which has been a little bit bumpy. Let's go with September 2023. He was suspended for the season opener for NCAA violations while acting as Michigan's offensive coordinator. Those troubles will then continue for him. This past September, he was suspended in connection with the infamous sign stealing scandal at Michigan, and then he was fired for cause, so they say, on Wednesday. Now, as the former head coach is set to face a judge, we're wondering, How should he plead? Noah Pines, this is your world, criminal court. What should he do today?
Julie, you always plead not guilty to start. I mean, this is first appearance. You know, typically you're never going, I'm guilty today, Judge. That even if you are guilty, you're not doing it today. So, you know, you're figuring out what, obviously we're going to figure out what the charges are, and you know, whether he pleads guilty would be way down the line.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're almost out of time, but some final thoughts here. Dan Lust, in terms of what we're going to see happening with him, any public statements, any predictions you got for us?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here, and you know, it's a big story really because of what the question is, what Michigan knew ahead of time, or even the dispatcher saying that he was being stalked for months, and it seems that this was a consensual relationship. So why did Michigan wait until today, or I guess earlier this week, to make that firing? That's really the question. How much Michigan knew, and if that period of time that they knew would create a defense for Sherrone Moore to get his contract buyout, at least in our transactional world, that seems to be the question that everyone's curious about.
Yes, boy, great conversation with you both. We'll continue it as this case progresses. Got to leave it there for now. Dan Lust, thank you so much. Noah Pines, thank you very much. We're going to hit a break, friends at home. When we come back, we're counting down to the closing arguments in the Brian Walshe homicide case. What does his body language tell us? But first,
you can only imagine how, I could only still to this day imagine how disturbing, how frightful, how unbelievable the idea that that many children and a principal and a teacher's aide and a teacher would all have been killed.
we're remembering the tragedy that took place at Sandy Hook Elementary School. I spoke with Connecticut's former governor about that horrific day. Welcome back. Just 2 weeks before Christmas time, a gunman stormed Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut, killing 26 people, 20 of them being children. One of those children was 6-year-old Benjamin Wheeler.
David and I will never have true justice. True justice would be our 15-year-old healthy and standing next to us right now. But Benny will never be 15. He will be 6 forever because he is gone forever.
His parents and so many others coping with the memories of that horrible day. The gunman died by suicide, but no one will ever understand how or why this happened. I recently spoke with Connecticut's governor at the time, Daniel Malloy, who took us back to that horrible day. With me, the former governor of Connecticut, Attorney Daniel Malloy. Thank you so much for your time. Take us back in time, if you would, please, to where you were, what you were doing when you got that dreadful call.
I was in my office conducting a meeting with several people there when my chief of staff came in and said there'd been a shooting at a school. I asked the question, are there casualties? And the only report we had at that moment was that there was one person who had been impacted. I'm a former prosecutor, tried a lot of murder cases. When you have a one victim, that normally means it's a fight between two people or a marriage that's broken up or that sort of thing. But I said, keep me posted. And then a few minutes later, it was bigger than that. And then a few minutes later, we started to understand how many people had been injured and how many people were starting to get numbers on numbers of people who had expired. So, yeah, I remember that very clearly. And we got in the car and it was driven down to the location and was there. And all of this was in the morning. I think I didn't get back to my residence up until about 12 o'clock that night.
I want to ask you something that, may not be widely known, and that is what it was like with you being really at the heart of this and having to deliver that dreadful news to those families. You went to the location, and I understand set up at a fire station just across from Sandy Hook Elementary. And tell us then what began happening and what did you ultimately have to share with these families?
Well, there were a couple of things that we had to clear first. I met with the first select woman and said, hey, this is your town. I'm not barging in. On the other hand, I have 1,200 people on my state police, and you have a few, just a few people in your own police. And she said, fine, please take it over. And so we were cleared. Obviously, I then shortly thereafter, went in to meet the folks who were in the building. They were the parents of children. They were the parents of adults who had been subsequently understood had been killed, and that went on for a number of hours. I asked early, when are we going to tell these folks what's going on? And I got the answer from the head of the state police is, well, we don't do that until we can recognize and identify the person who's been deceased. And I said, well, how long is that going to take? And they said, well, we probably won't be able to do that until tomorrow. So I had to wrestle with that for a period of time, and ultimately I made the decision that was cruel and unreasonable. And shortly thereafter, I re-entered the fire department where we had set up everyone, and I had to say some terrible things. That basically, if you had not been reunified with your loved one by now, that's not going to happen. And then, of course, everyone understood what I was saying. One of the parents rightfully, was screaming about the deaths and that like. And it was, you can only imagine how, I could only still to this day imagine how disturbing, how frightful, how unbelievable the idea that many children and a principal and a teacher's aide and a teacher would all have been killed on that day in a wonderful town and a history, very, very nice place and kind of a postcard community. And then recovery went on for a long period of time.
Right.
I got to know these folks very well, obviously talked about. I had always been in favor of some additional levels of gun safety being instituted by government, and we did do that in Connecticut, passed the toughest gun law in the nation, and very proud of that, did that on a bipartisan basis, and we continue to this day.
Yes, an unspeakable tragedy, as you know, and around this time of year, it probably hits heavier, some of those memories, as folks are sentimental and experiencing a lot of love around the holidays. We're thinking about the families of those children and adults who were killed in this tragedy. Tell me, Daniel, what message do you have for those folks who are still healing as they're continuing to bring up these memories around this time of year?
By and large, these are very strong individuals. The parents of teachers, or the husband of a teacher, or these were strong people, and the parents of the deceased children, and I got to know so many of them because they assisted in my effort to get a real serious gun protection built into the statute. So listen, these were extraordinarily strong people. They supported one another, family by family, community by community. It was really quite an effort. And quite frankly, in many ways, they're the heroes. They're the ones who were able to go home and take care of their spouses, or take care of the other children, or to be community representatives. It was. Of course, I'm reminded every December.
You're right. These survivors and supporters, they are the heroes. Beautifully said. Attorney Daniel Malloy, also former governor of Connecticut, professor, former prosecutor. You've done so much. Thank you so much for your time devoted to this case that we're always going to have in our hearts. Take good care.
Thank you.
And this Sunday, it'll be 13 years since that shooting took place. Our thoughts and our prayers continue to be with the families of the victims.
TV.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments. We have a big hour ahead here.
Your deplorable actions are unforgivable.
The community still doesn't know how this Boston police officer died.
He can't prove one element of his case. It was a dramatic day, a dramatic moment inside the courtroom.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan. Tonight at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Have you made a decision about whether you wish to testify at this trial?
Yes, I have.
And what is your decision?
I will not testify.
Now for what's tipping the scales of justice, we're counting down to the closing arguments in the Brian Walsh murder trial. Want to show you a live look at the courtroom at this moment. We got the ceiling fan going, getting ready to hear the all-important final arguments in this case. Walsh is accused of murdering his wife, Anna, whose body has never been recovered. We know that was because of him. He dismembered her body. He's admitted to that. He's pleaded to that. He's also pleaded to lying to police about it, but he says he didn't do the murder. His attorneys floated the idea out there in open that she died suddenly. Now, we learned Walsh would not be testifying in his trial, but that didn't stop him from communicating with himself. There was a moment where he was talking to himself yesterday in the courtroom. We noticed these odd things, so we thought, let's analyze his body language. Let's bring in jury consultant and human behavior expert Susan Constantine to do that for us. Good morning, my friend. All right, Susan, let's start with him talking to himself. I mean, it was bizarre. Here we go. Let's roll the VO, and there it is. And Susan, tell us what you noticed, if anything, here, please.
Yes, so you hit it on the nail. I mean, he's not in New York City, so we know that he's not standing on the corner muttering by himself. But he is what we call an internal dialoguer. So if you can actually see the cognitive load, there'll be those quick little flashes of his eye closure. And so what he's doing, he's an internalizer thinker. So actually he's internalizing thinking, but outwardly. And oftentimes what he does is he'll put his hand over his mouth, and that is kind of holding in the words that he's about to say. So this is a form of what we call a cognitive load overload. So he's trying to solve a problem. He's maybe debating. He's rehearsing different scenarios. He may be debating. All of these things are what's going on. And the fact is that these voices in his head when he's discussing them are so strong that he doesn't even realize that he's actually sharing them. He's actually talking them out. I mean, like, think about when you've been in your house and you can't find something, you say, oh, I can't believe where I can't find that thing. And nobody else is in the house. You're not talking to anybody, right?
We've all been there, right? Right, Susan?
Yes, so this is... That's what he's doing.
Yeah. Boy, this is fascinating. Okay, so we know he's deep in thought there about something. Let's look at this moment where he's in the Lowe's. He's at the self-checkout with his son. This is January the 4th. So this is the day that Anna was reported missing by him. And look at him, Susan. What's going on here?
I think of the song, I'm Too Sexy for This Place or something like that, because...
like that song back in the day, right, said Fred. Remember that I'm Too Sexy song?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I'm too sexy. So generally speaking, if you think about it, you can kind of think about your single days, and you'd see someone and you like them, and with the guys, you'll see them kind of run their hands through their hair, and it's really more of an attraction signal, just no different than a peacock is going to lift its feathers. So, but he's doing this to himself. That's what's so creepy about this. Okay, so this is his internal celebration or his triumph. This is duping delight. This is contempt, self-admiration. And all of this together is telling you that he is really enamored with himself and his performance of what he's done, and he's celebrating it. And this is the part that's so sick.
Right. So Susan, if I have this straight, he looks at himself and he thinks he's sexy.
He thinks he is hot as you know what.
This guy is one for the books. That is for sure. Oh, my.
Yes.
And we know that at the time, his wife has already been dismembered. Mm-hmm. We know that she's deceased. He's putting up this this front for the world that, oh, my wife is missing and I'm so, afraid, what's happening. He's reaching out to people, but yet he's got this quiet little moment here. What does that say, Susan, when he's lying to the world? He's done something that's unspeakable, but yet he can still have this moment where he likes himself.
It's kind of like with Dr. Burgess, and you and I've met her at CrimeCon, how they're able to cube, how they can become one person, disengage, become another person, and it's a form of dissociation, right? So this is a psychopathy. This is pathological. So we can't compare this as being normal, because he's not normal. Anybody that could chop up his wife, and I can't even stand cutting a piece of chicken, fat off a piece of chicken, for God's sake.
Right.
So this guy is just demented. So this joy that he gets, and when he's internalizing and he's quiet, he's reliving, rethinking, he's recalibrating. A lot of these guys, even in sexual assault cases, there is a sense of arousal. Then they kind of relive it. That's what we're seeing here. Like, oh, I'm so good at this. Oh, this is incredible. Look at that smirk right there. You saw it, the double one. Right?
Yes.
It comes right after this one. Watch, and then he comes back right there. He kind of pulls his lip in, kind of really oddly. And so that was kind of the concealment of that flood of arousal that he's getting. So, and if the shifting back and forth, he's looking around, but he's looking at himself in different angles. And I thought, is there a camera in front? Is there a mirror? No, there's not a mirror. Is he looking at someone who's trying to get their attention, and he's flirting with somebody? We don't know what's on the other side, but what I do know is what I saw that I just described.
Oh, such excellent points from you, Susan. I have another clip for you to look at, if you would, please. This is where he's coming out of the courthouse because, as we know, he's incarcerated. He's going to the van to go back to the jail. And our team, our Matt Johnson, you're going to hear, is asking him questions, and he's not answering.
Brian, how do you think the murder trial's going? Any message to Anna's family? Any message to your kids?
He didn't even look at Matt. Susan, what did you see there?
He's giving him the nonverbal cold shoulder. So when you see their body language and it's not turned or shifted, or you make eye gaze at someone, that's a nonverbal cold shoulder. It's like, it's dismissive. So I'm not going to make eye contact with you. I'm not going to answer your questions. And I'm not going to even let you know that I'm even aroused or even thinking that you're important to me enough to be able to respond to you. So I thought Matt did a good job. Good job, Matt. But unfortunately, it was steadfast that he's not going to respond, and he was sticking to it. So nonverbal cold shoulder.
Yes, yes, exactly, Susan. Matt did his job. He asked him the questions, I can't force him to answer, but it was kind of, it's just chilling, like the way he just stares into outer space as if he's not hearing Matt's voice, yelling the questions at him. Ugh.
The perp walk.
The perp walk. Oh, yeah.
Yep, we've seen this before. Others will externalize and they'll yell and scream and want to get the last word in. He's not doing that here. He has a lot of his conversations within, right? And then we can see they're all within.
Nice callback to the first clip you looked at, Susan, right? That conversation within a council table. Maybe he's doing his perp walk right now. Susan Constantine, you were sensational. Thank you so much for the great insight. We'll see you soon. Friends at home, don't go anywhere. That's it for Opening